Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Build a Better Newsletter. My name's Leah, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm on the demand generation team here at Movable Ink. So before we get started, and while you're looking over today's agenda, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items. So the webinar is being recorded, and the broadcast and slides will be available here in BrightTalk a little after the presentation, but definitely by tomorrow, so you can just hop back into BrightTalk if you want to view them again or share with your friends. If you have any questions for our presenter, please feel free to submit them at any time through the questions panel on your nav. We'll have a Q&A session at the very end, and we'll try to get to everyone's questions. There are also two ebooks listed in the attachments panel at the bottom of your BrightTalk screen. They have some relevant information and insights that feed really nicely into today's presentation if you want a little extra information or data. And finally, don't forget to join the conversation with us on Twitter. You can mention our account at Movable Ink. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lauren, a presenter, and let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Lind, and I'm an account manager here at Movable Ink on the client experience team. I've been working here now over a year with clients across all verticals. So I'm excited to talk about some best practices for newsletters that can be used by email marketing managers across all industries. Great. So just to give you a little bit of background about Movable Ink and what it is that we do. So we give you the ability to change the content of your email at the moment of open. So using the same dynamic snippet of code within your HTML, you're able to create a hyper-personalized experience for each user who's opening the email. So let's say someone opens in the morning versus afternoon versus evening, they're going to see content that reflects that time change. Great. And then this slide is more just to show you that email isn't going anywhere. We have some stats from Experian just showing that email is still the number one marketing channel for return on investment. Great. So why email newsletters? So newsletters give you the ability to retarget users that are already subscribed to your emails. So this gives you the ability to gain information about each user and then serve them with a hyper-personalized experience so that they're that much more likely to actually convert and drive revenue and click-through for your campaigns. So again, here are just some overall stats. So 68% of marketers say newsletters are the number one email marketing tool to help to achieve their business goals. And then 59% of consumers say that email influences their purchasing decisions. And 25% of consumers say that they spend more as a result of email campaigns. So using Movable Ink to really make that experience more personalized is going to help you increase the likelihood to drive conversion and click-through. Great. So how do you plan your email newsletter? Some overall key points that we're going to review today are the ability to use progressive polling to collect data on your subscribers. So week after week, maybe you're asking them a question and then retargeting them depending on how they answer, and building out those consumer profiles based on the data that you're collecting. And then also mapping your newsletter content to those profiles. So if they answer in a certain way, you're able to retarget them, again, using the same dynamic snippet of code, but we're doing all the targeting on our end. So along with that, you want to be using optimization, automation, as well as personalization. Great. So we separate our capabilities into these four main pillars, the first being personalization. So this is the ability to personalize content with a user's first name or really any data that you have on file. So that could be loyalty points, certain preferences. This also would fall into weather targeting, geo-targeting, and device targeting as well. The next core pillar we have is automation. So we often refer to this as our set it and forget it tool. So having the ability to pull in content that's already existing, let's say on your website somewhere, or perhaps it's within an API that you want to pull this data, we'd be able to then tap into that and just automate it into the email itself. And then next we have optimization, which gives you the ability to test content in real time within that launch. So newsletters are a great place to use optimization, given the fact that you can test certain call to actions, hero images, or messages to see what's resonating with your audience. And then we have innovation. So this is the ability to use countdown timers, live polling, really anything to make your email stand out in the inbox. Now we have a bunch of examples of best-in-class email newsletter examples. So the first one here is from USTA, and as you can see, we're pulling in the user's first name in the newsletter, and then in the body of the email, we're actually tapping into an API that we could access with USTA and pulling in tennis events that are near the user. So not only are we using personalization, but we're also geolocating the user and then using that API to pull in the most relevant tennis locations or tournaments near that user. So we were geolocating using the API in the last example, but another way that you can use geolocation within your newsletters is to pull in their zip code and then show them a local map. Let's say you want to drive them to a certain location or show them the top 3 locations that are closest to them. You're able to do that. And you'd also be able to target certain events or anything that you have that store location, we can then show on a map and then also alter the event times and hours given that the holiday season is coming up. And then a huge benefit of automation within newsletters is just that ability to pull in most recent stories, best sellers, whatever that is. We're able to help you automate that content so it's saving you time. So if this is already existing on your site, we can simply just tap into that and pull it into the email. And then each week that would be updating on its own, so you wouldn't have to go back and update week over week. Again, with automation, that could be using web crops or an API, but pulling in most shared articles or most popular articles, and then giving the ability for the user to share that out on their social sites. So deep linking to Twitter so that they can share the article, deep linking into the Instagram camera to encourage them to take a picture and share with a certain hashtag is a great way to incorporate automation as well. Cool. And then a lot of our retail clients will have daily deals. So let's say that you have an email template that you're updating every day with different HTML. With automation, you would be able to set those embed codes in there and then have that newsletter update every day without you having to change that content. So it would just be pulling from your website and gives you the ability to not have to spend so much time updating the email itself. So this is an example from Bloomingdale's. This is from their What's New Wednesdays. And here you can see that we're web cropping in from their site, depending on the certain category that they want to pull in. So whether it's sweaters, shoes, handbags, whatever that is, we're able to then pull that into the email, We can also customize the look and feel of this. So if it looks different on your site and you want it to match your email template, we're also able to customize that per email, per newsletter, so that it's on brand with that particular send. And then I mentioned earlier that newsletters are a great place to use optimization. So given that you have this list of subscribed users, really using this to test and see what messaging resonates with your audience, and then also having the ability to optimize not only for click-through rate or hero messaging, but also optimize based on device. So thinking about where users are opening this email. Will they be on their mobile device or will they be on desktop? And then adjusting the template accordingly so that if they are opening on their mobile device and you want to drive an app download, maybe include a banner for them to click through on their mobile device, or just different ways to optimize that layout depending on what device they're on. So here we have an example from The Knot, and this is for their weekly newsletter, and they were testing the colors of the CTA buttons. So they had 4 different colors listed out here, and they saw that the pink actually had a higher click-through rate compared to the rest of the colors. And again, you can use this week over week. So they tested with the color, and then maybe next week they're going to test with the messaging. So read more versus, find out more here, or whatever messaging that would be. And then having the ability to pull in live social content. So this is something that's very easy for us to set up, and really adds a lot to your newsletter by having the ability to incorporate social and email together. So keeping content fresh and automatically pulling in specific hashtags or photos from your social feeds. Whether that's Instagram or Twitter, we're able to then automate that so that week over week it's just showing the freshest content from your social streams. And this is an example from Saks Fifth Avenue. So in their Welcome series, with new subscribers, they're showing content that's already been curated. So we're pulling the top 4 images from their gallery, which is hosted on their website. And this just ensures that, again, it's the most up-to-date content from their already curated social feed. And what's cool about this is that when the user clicks on the user-generated content, it actually clicks through to the product on their site. This example from the Jets is completely built out by Movable Ink, so completely automated here. We're pulling in the Instagram stream in the top, and then we're pulling in top articles for editorial, and then we're also pulling in the Jets Twitter feed. So this newsletter is completely automated and really gives the ability, again, for you to save a ton of time by having fresh content, but also not needing to spend a lot of time updating the template. Great. So just to review some of the key points for today when it comes to building out your newsletters, you want to make sure that you are keeping that content fresh. So whether that's pulling in social feed content or pulling in content that's already existing on your website, at the moment of open, that content will change to reflect wherever that content is being hosted. So that's a great way to keep your newsletter up to date while saving you time. and then also using responsive design. So again, your users may be opening on the mobile device versus desktop at different times of the day, and really just making sure that that experience is the most personalized that it can be, depending on where that user is located and what device they're on. And then also we talked about geo-targeting, so the ability to show certain events depending on where the user is located, or pull in local maps with updated store hours for the holidays, really incentivizing those users to go into the store or click through to the site depending on where they're located. And then also having the ability to pull in your most shared blog posts and boost engagement. So pulling in the blog posts and then also giving the user the ability to share this out on social to spread the word and really make a full circle experience in terms of sharing and pulling in that content. And then also the ability to add user-generated content to a live social feed and have that click through to your Instagram, or have it click through to a certain product on your site, depending on what vertical you are in. And then also delivering daily deals. So just having the ability to have your template completely automated for weekly newsletters while staying personalized. So just to give you an example of that, we talked about the Jets, how their newsletter is completely automated. We are also able to layer on certain targeting rules. So let's say you wanted to add in some weather personalization, so only show specific articles or clothing, different types of clothing depending on the weather outside or where people are located. Keep in mind that you can layer on those capabilities as well, so that while it's automated, it's also hyper-personalized.
Great. And now it's time to hop into some Q&A. So I've been sorting through the questions so far. Okay, the first one that we have is about social media and using social media in emails. So how do you filter social media posts, since it's user-generated content, so that nothing negative or bad would show up in an email?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few ways that we can go about doing this. The first, let's just start with Twitter, would be you could actually go in and favorite certain tweets, and then Movable Ink would only be pulling in the favorited content. When it comes to Instagram, we can pull in specific hashtags with the designated @ handle. Also, a lot of our clients work with third-party vendors to curate that social media content. So, for example, Saks was working with Curate to have a pre-populated content gallery with already blessed content. Then we're just tapping in via an API and pulling in that already curated content.
Great. So our next question coming up is for location and weather targeting. What happens if somebody who opens an email just for some reason or another can't have their location detected? Is that possible? What are the workarounds?
Yeah, so when it comes to geolocation and weather personalization, we always would include a default or a fallback. So if for some reason you didn't have a zip code on file, or if someone wasn't able to be located, then we would just fall back to that default content.
Great. So another question that we have here is just, what are the main metrics when figuring out if a newsletter is working? So what stats are you looking at? And then the second part of the question is, how do you A/B test?
Yeah. So for newsletters, a lot of the time, my clients specifically will be looking at click-through rate, and also they're looking at conversion, if we're able to track conversion with our conversion pixel. So, and then another great metric that we're able to track on our end is engagement level. So we can tell you when the user opens the email, if they've been on that page for 0 to 3 seconds, 3 seconds to 15 seconds or 15 seconds or more. And the goal really is to make sure that most of your audience is staying engaged on that page for 15 seconds or more. Great. And then, so how do you A/B test?
Yeah.
Great. So with our optimization tool, the way that this works is that you would send us the specific variation. So let's say you're testing, a pink button versus a blue button, and then we'll set that up on our end, and you would just let us know the list size and expected open rate specific to your send. And then we have a t-test baked into our platform, which is then able to determine, based on the metrics you provide to us, when to drop off the losing creative and only move forward with the winning creative based on either click-through or conversion rate. So we're doing the lifting on our end. We really just need list size and expected open rate and creative to then run that test.
Great. So another question that we have here is about the daily deals emails examples that were mentioned during the presentation. So this person's wondering if the daily deals emails that we were talking about were coming through one email or individual emails going out every single day with a different deal.
Okay. So it really depends on the client. So for example, I know Bloomingdale's has a few different daily deals emails or weekly emails, which we're updating those templates based on where we're pulling from their site. However, I know for another one of our clients, they just had one email template for daily deals specifically, and the way that this works is we're pulling in specifically from their website, and they're telling us where to pull in or what to crop in. And then each day that's going to be updated with the current day's web crops. So if I open the email on Monday and then come back on Tuesday, I'm only going to see Tuesday's content. So that would be an example of where it's just one template.
Great. Another question, kind of hopping back to social media. So how does deep linking for Twitter work? Are people able to share articles without leaving the email? Just what does that whole process look like?
So for deep linking from Twitter, there's no way to have that experience exist within the email itself. You would have a call to action that would say, tweet here, and then they would click on the Twitter button, and we could have a pre-populated tweet, which would include a link to the article, and then the user could simply click tweet now. But they would need to be logged in to Twitter in order to do this, or else they'd be prompted to log in and then share on Twitter. And if they are on a mobile device, we can ensure that they're deep linked into the Twitter app itself to share out that tweet.
Great. So another question that we have is asking about just any trends that you're seeing working well in newsletter formats. So length of content, image to copy ratio, just anything that you're seeing across our client base.
Yeah. So I've seen a trend within this last year of cutting down on the amount of text within email. So, newsletters, depending on what industry you're in, give you the ability to share a lot of information, but we're seeing that the more visual these newsletters are, the more likely people are to click through. So in terms of length, I would say, making sure that it's not too long, and of course we'd have to take a look specifically at the email itself, but really I think something that's been working well is the ability to pull in those automated articles or pull in social feeds so that while the content is still changing, it doesn't add length to the email itself.
Cool. Another question that we have here is about video capabilities. So does Movable Ink provide a way to embed videos or animations within newsletters, and is it an effective tool?
Yes. So we do provide the ability to add animation within the email itself. So what we would do is take a video that you send us, and then we would configure that into a 30-second GIF, and that's what would actually play within the email itself, and then the user could click on that GIF, to a Movable Ink hosted landing page where the video exists and they could watch the full video, or you can have them click through to wherever the video is hosted. So if that's on your website, on YouTube, we can have that click through as well. And then with the ability to have video within the email itself, with the update of iOS 10, we do have the ability to have an actual video with an email, but there are, just some things to be cautious and wary of. So while we have that ability, a lot of email clients and certain browsers don't allow for that video to play. So that's why we typically recommend going with the 30-second animation instead.
Great. And our one final question that we have for the day is just how do you set up these different types of targeting rules and capabilities? Does it require implementation? Just what does that process look like?
Yeah, so myself here on the client experience team would actually be the one who's helping you set this up. So you would just provide us with the logic and the different variations of creative, and then I would go in on the back end of our tool and set up that targeting logic, and all of that would be housed within the embed code that we're handing back to you.
Great. So first of all, I want to thank you all for your questions. There were a lot of them and some really good kind of interesting points that we were able to hit on. We're going to wrap up today's webinar, but again, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're curious to learn a little bit more about Movable Ink after we're done here, definitely check out the attachments that are posted in BrightTalk, and feel free to reach out to us. We're here and happy to answer any questions. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.